Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome into the Finstock Sports Network's Touchdown in Paradise. I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
I'm Joe.
I'm Russ.
And before we go any further, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us for more. There's all kinds of sports in this channel you don't want to miss. Well, guys, we're here. The regular season is over. It is championship week. We've had a heck of a season all around, and it all comes down to this, Conference Championship Week. But before we get into this, I do want to mention here, why don't we revisit the Heisman standings here? Because I think we're headed for another Mark Ingram, Toby Gerhart type year where this could be a very close vote. We've got, starting here with Bo Nix, Oregon quarterback, 3,906 yards, 37 touchdowns, 2 picks, 159 rush yards, and 6 touchdowns on the ground this season. Michael Penix, 3,899 yards, 32 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, minus 14 rush yards, but 3 touchdowns on the ground. Jaden Daniels, the human highlight reel, 3,812 yards, 40 touchdowns, 4 picks, 1,134 yards on the ground, which is 8.4 yards per carry, and 10 rushing touchdowns. And Marvin Harrison Jr., Ohio State wide receiver, 67 catches, 11 yards, 14 receiving touchdowns, 26 yards rushing, and 1 touchdown on the ground. I know at the beginning of the season, we did say that this is probably going to be one of the closest Heisman races that we've seen in recent years. Pete, do you still live up to that?
I mean, I think so. If we look at those names, each one of those guys had an amazing season. But what it boils down to right now is 2 of those 4 aren't playing this coming week. So, it's been very close, and it's even closer for 2 of them. And we might as well call the Pac-12 championship the Heisman House Bowl or something, because that's really what it's going to boil down to is those 2 guys. I mean, Jaden Daniels, great season. Marvin Harrison, great season. But you got to at least make your conference championship game, and neither of those guys did. So, very close all season long. It's been crazy. There's been some other guys in there, but I think it was good to kind of really label these the top 4 and realistically the top 2. So I'm excited, man. I'm jacked. Let's go. Let's get to it, baby.
Russ, the last Heisman winner who lost 3 games was Lamar Jackson. Could we see this with Jaden Daniels in a couple weeks?
Those stats are impressive, so you could definitely see it, but not playing this week. The last effort for Bo Nix, Michael Penix playing this week. I kind of forgot, Pete, who was that Heisman pick you picked? Can't really remember.
I forget too. My memory's a little hazy. Instead of being Petey Parlay, I'm playoff Pete. I'm locked in on the playoffs. I don't think about that other past stuff.
How about
right now?
How about that intro? We got Arizona basketball, we got Arizona baseball, we got Arizona softball. Gotta love it. Just got to get Arizona football in there.
Yeah, the one we're missing. Yeah.
Joe, your thoughts as the season winds down. Who do you feel like is going to be the Heisman at the end of the year?
Yeah, just to kind of echo what everyone said, I would go back and rewatch our early videos. We were talking Shedeur, we were talking Sam Hartman, we were talking Caleb as a repeat, and now it's finally come to these 4. And I agree with what Pete and Russ said. It comes down to losses. So Harrison Jr. losing to Michigan was a big one, I think. He has a great stat line, 14 touchdowns, 1,200 yards. Those are good numbers. Jaden Daniels, huge numbers, 40 touchdowns with 4 interceptions. But again, they're not playing this week. And if you want to be in the Heisman Trophy conversation, you have to be in your conference championship. You have to. I know, as you said, Justin, why Louisville quarterback Lamar Jackson. Geez, I had a brain fart there. He had 3 losses, but he was just such a freak of nature. Like the dude could do almost nothing wrong on that field. Jaden Daniels, kind of, but I definitely think, he's if he wins, I'd be surprised. I think he's the dark horse. I think really it comes down to who shows out in the Pac-12 championship in Vegas on December 1st. Honestly, if I were to bet now, I would probably go Bo Nix. I think, again, I think he has the chip on his shoulder. I think everyone has been talking Penix. I think Penix has had a little bit more of a highlight reel. I think ultimately, though, whoever wins that game is probably winning the Heisman.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we go back to our first episode, which I don't know if this is going to happen or not. I think it might be Bo's, especially if he comes out and plays the way he was. But it was me and Bobby Finn's talk. Shout out Bobby Finn talk, who picked Michael Penix to win it all. I think it's a 2-man race, and it'll be whoever plays better this week, whoever gets the W. But
I got to throw a wrench in here. What if Jalen Milroe beats Georgia in the SEC championship game? Like, could he be a dark horse for it? I think
it's too late in the season for that to happen.
But that story, and I don't like Alabama. They can suck one. But I like him. He's a good player. Like, I like him because he got benched. He's been through a lot this season. I just say, if they beat Georgia, Alabama fans are going to be chirping. That's for sure.
I think it puts him in conversation for next year. I think that's really what it comes down to. I think this year, Bo Nix and Michael Penix they've put themselves way ahead of everyone. And just to basically say they beat Georgia and what he did against Auburn at that
we'll get to in a minute. We'll get to it in a minute. Yes.
Phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
It's too late in the seseason. So I think it's Bo Nix or Penix, maybe Daniels. A little SEC bias, but we'll see.
I'd probably lean to Bo right now just by the way the way he's been playing lately. But we'll see how Penix shows up in the big game, and he's the only the other game on Friday is Jackson State, New Mexico State, so he's in prime time. So everybody, all eyes on the Pac-12. Because that's not Washington State, Oregon State. So those are the only two that can fight for the Pac-12 title.
Well, this will be the final ever Pac-12 matchup on Friday, and I'm excited for it, but I'm also very sad. We'll get to that a little later in the show too. But like Joe alluded to, we've got to debrief the Iron Bowl because you talk about potential games of the year. I know a lot of us who don't like Alabama, myself included, were very disappointed watching that. I was actually at Hennessy's here in Manhattan at an Alabama watch party just for the end of the game. I was like, wow. And then that happens, and then everybody is erupting, yelling Roll Tide. And I'm like, oh, gosh, is this the family reunion?
Well,
you say you don't. You want Alabama to lose, but I wanted Alabama in the SEC title game. I want to see chaos this week. I want to see some shakeup. Like that's why we tune into college football every Saturday. So we want to see those shakeups. We want to see those upsets. Even though Alabama, that's not an upset. Even though the spreads give them 6, like you want to see that. I don't want to see them go down to Auburn. I'm glad it was a good game, and that's a rivalry game. So even though Auburn's down, those guys are always going to get up for those type of games. But I want to see chaos. This is what we live for. This is why we love college football.
Yeah, moments like that is the reason why we love college football. That was epic. Jalen Milroe, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns, including a heroic one at the end, 107 yards on the ground rushing, by the way. Peyton Thorne had 5 total completions the whole game, 1 touchdown and 2 picks. and that dime to the corner of the end zone, 4th and 31, 34 seconds to go. How do you only rush 3? Pete, let me start with you.
I mean, you might as well rush 0. Those guys weren't even rushing, bro. They were standing there trying to make sure he didn't run up the middle. It's like, are you stupid? Let him run past the line of scrimmage. Like, get around the outside and force him in the middle. That way he can't throw the ball. Like, it's just
Which
so
he did the
stupid.
play before. Remember, he did the
Exactly.
illegal forward pass.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, why? Like, this is what separates the good teams from teams that just don't get it. Auburn screwed up the return. I mean, Auburn had every chance to win that game, including a bad snap that put them back like 30 yards on Bama, and they still screwed it up. Like, what are you doing, bro? Stand at the back of the end zone and literally make sure no one stands in front of you or behind you. That's all you have to do. Like, you're so stupid. But also, I hate Alabama, and Russ is exactly right. This is setting up for one of the all-time SEC title games. Hopefully, it's not a letdown. But they occasionally can have a player that I'm like, wow, I like that guy. And that's who Jalen Milroe is. That guy, I'd take him on the Cowboys, an NFL team, in a heartbeat whenever he does go to the league, because that guy can just bounce back, man. So I'm happy for him. Auburn's trash. I mean, just absolutely disgusting defense. Like, what are you doing, man? I mean, what do you guys think? Like, how do you let that happen? Anyone stand behind you, like, at all?
Joe, we'll go to you on that question. How does this happen?
You need to fire your DC all practically. I don't want anyone to lose their job, but why are you putting people in man coverage on the last play of the game? Like, go prevent, let him run. Again, they didn't have a touch. They didn't have a timeout, I don't think. Or they may have had one. Like, they just had that botched snap. The universe basically was aligning this perfectly for Auburn and basically said, just don't mess it up. And they did. They just fumbled it. And, props to Alabama, never giving up. They've showed that grittiness that I think the past couple of years Alabama has been missing. Do not count them out. I think the SEC game hopefully is going to be a good game. You just never know with the SEC championship. Sometimes it could be a great game or it could just be an absolute snore and one team just blows them out. But I don't think so. I think this game's going to be great. Like Russ said, glad they didn't lose to Auburn. That would have been such a letdown. So now that there's something on the line for both teams, can't wait. But Auburn, woo, that one's going to sting, just like how they keep re-showing the field goal that they returned for a touchdown. This will be another one that we'll see on highlight clips forever.
All-time classic. Russ, your thoughts before we move on?
A great game, and they stuck around. They're, like Joe said, they're showing that grit, tough defense. I'm just gearing up, ready for a solid weekend of college football, and hopefully it's a great SEC title game.
That's right, and it is my last weekend in the States for quite some time, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. But we're going to move on here. Michigan silences all doubt, tucks away the Bucks 30-24 without Jim Harbaugh again. J.J. McCarthy, 148 yards, 1 touchdown. Blake Corum, 88 yards on the ground and 2 scores. Kyle McCord, 271 through the air, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Marvin Harrison Jr. had a touchdown for himself, along with 5 catches and 118 yards. Michigan clinches a spot in the Big Ten Championship. We're going to start with Joe here. What was your reaction to the game?
Hell of a game, but it went exactly the way I thought it would. Close at the half, and then you just see the better team arrive and show up, and that's Michigan, even without Harbaugh. I think also, again, it was funny that Lou Holtz started trending again after that game, because I agree. I mean, Ohio State at the end got bullied. They got ran all over. J.J. McCarthy, 148 yards rushing, passing. Blake Corum, 88 yards rushing, but 2 touchdowns. they just, for whatever reason, Ryan Day and Ohio State, when they get to this game, they get bullied. It's like your big brother beating up the little brother. It's kind of it's exactly how I thought it would go. Michigan was the better team, the more physical team, the more experienced team in that setting, and they showed it. I think they're going to just blow out Iowa, not to foreshadow anything. They're the real deal. If they can take on Georgia or someone else, we'll see. But for now, they're going to win the Big Ten again and just dominate.
Russ, was there any surprise in this game with the outcome, or is this exactly what you expected?
No, yeah, I'm with Joe. I definitely thought that it was, the Michigan was the better team all year, even though their schedule was a little weaker. Ohio State never really proved it to me all this year. Yeah, they beat Notre Dame, they beat Penn State, but the offense really, was never clicking on all cylinders. So definitely the way I thought. I don't really want this to happen, but wouldn't this be, if Michigan wins it all this year, that's the NCAA's nightmare because they're trying to do whatever they can to knock Harbaugh down. And if they win it all, it'd just be one more screw you to the NCAA.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. He does go to the NFL after that. I mean, what else does he have to do? I just won the whole thing, and you guys still tried to screw me over. Like, thanks, I'm out.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Joe. And I think that if he did, Michigan would be like okay with it because their interim head coach is kind of doing a great job. So hire that guy. Yeah, this game. I wasn't nervous at all. This is kind of how I thought. I actually also thought Michigan could have had more yards on the ground. Like sometimes they throw it around and it's just like, just run the ball, dude. You're running it right down their throat. Don't stop. They're a wagon. Are they a wagon that can beat Georgia or Bama? Based on how they played Georgia last year, yeah. And they're more experienced this year and seemingly better. But their schedule, besides really like this game, hasn't really kind of, I should say, set them up to go through maybe that adversity like Georgia or Bama is going through. So I'm excited. Ohio State can suck a fat one. I'm not even a Michigan fan, but, go blue today. Let's go, baby. Bring it on. Ryan Day, you get paid $10 million a year. You got to beat Michigan. Like, that's how it goes. I see all these people calling for his job. I'm not necessarily saying get rid of him because he has a great record. But there are those games you got to win, and he's 1-3. So something has to change for him. Otherwise, if he has another season where he doesn't beat him, I think he's gone.
I would say the only surprise for me was I thought it was going to be a little lower scoring. I mean, the fact that it was 30-24, I would say I was a little surprised by that both teams were able to put some points on the board. But again, it went the way I thought it would. Close at half. And then Michigan kind of said, all right, we're ready to go up another gear. In Ohio State, I would say the only guy that looked like that could compete was Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, I think he was the only one that really could keep up. And he did. I mean, 5 receptions, 118 yards. I would say the only real critique is give him the ball more. But
yeah, Joe, I'm with you. Like, granted, he had more yards in this game than he did against Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's defense – Hall of Fame worthy attempt against him because you can just see when he gets the ball, you can't catch him, dude. Like he's so fast. It's crazy. I just think to myself, if they had a better quarterback who could get him the ball more, they might be kind of unstoppable. But now he's going to be gone, so it is what it is.
Speaking of being gone, what are the chances that Ryan Day is gone if he can't beat Michigan one more year?
Oh, if he can't
100%.
win, yeah, if he doesn't win next year again in the Big House, he's not even making it out of that stadium. They're going to fire him probably there.
Well, do they do opposites next year? It'll be a home game, right?
Next year it'll be at the
Horseshoe.
Yeah. So if he definitely doesn't beat him next year, he's gone, son.
Yeah, the fact that they lost 3 in a row. I have some Ohio State friends. They are just. I don't even know how to explain how they're feeling right now. They're just like, we have nothing to say, and I'm just like. It's exactly the way I thought it would.
They can't say anything. So
exactly. I mean,
story.
everything was going against Michigan with the NCAA, and they still lost. Again, the whole we are a physical team. Okay, you are, but when it matters most against Michigan, you're not. Like, say whatever you want. Like, you're not as physical as Michigan, and that's a philosophy. That's an identity that Harbaugh has brought into. I think, in all honesty, he's brought that. He was like that at Stanford. He was like that at San Francisco. It's just his identity of just hard nose, downhill running, and we're just gonna beat you the hell up, and good luck trying to stop us. And Ryan Day and the Buckeyes just can't compete with it.
And on that note, it's time for the Rush Report.
Okay, Justin. It's a 2-man race. It's me and Joe Dub. The South Bay born and bred boys. I got 82. Joe's got 78.5. He had a pretty solid week.
Hit the upset.
He hit his upset. He was doing a little lobbying, a little whining, trying to get more points.
Just putting in some time. Just putting in the work in. Maybe I'll get a
Justin,
slip up.
You're at 69.5, and Pete,
nice.
You're at 56. You missed your picks this week. Come back. We'll see you next year.
Yeah, dude. I'm focused on the playoffs right now. So this race that doesn't have a playoff bracket, I don't do that, dude. That's what I'm all about. We're moving on next week, son.
And next week, this week really starts our Paradise Parlay Championship Edition, starting with the Mountain West. Boise State at UNLV. Boise State -2.5, over under 58.5. Boise State -135. UNLV +114 at home. Starting with Joe.
Yeah, honestly, I thought this was more of a pick'em game. You could go either way. I'm taking the home team. I'm taking UNLV with the points. I'm taking UNLV money line. And really the big question for me was the over-under. I think it's the Mountain West, so they're going to put up points, so I'm going to take the over.
Yeah, we played Boise State earlier this year. I know they're a much different team. I believe they also fired their coach, Andy Avalos. So they may be gassed up. They may have a chip on their shoulder for this game. But UNLV is at home. I'll take UNLV with the money line to win. I'll go the under, and I'll take them to cover. Pete.
Yeah, just Boise in bowl games just always gives me flashbacks to playing Oklahoma. So just because of that, I'm going with Boise. Can you imagine making it to the bowl, or not bowl game, but your conference championship game, and they fire you? It's like, all right, rough life. Boise State to cover 2.5. I'm doing the over. The Mountains love points, and I'm taking Boise money line. So riding the blue train, son.
And Russ.
Yeah, I'm with you both. Joe and Justin. I saw Boise a couple weeks ago against Air Force. I wasn't very impressed. So I think UNLV will cover. They'll get the W and be over.
Pete versus the world. Let's go. Yeah. Now, go ahead.
Oh, no, nothing.
Now, in the AAC, SMU at Tulane. Tulane -5.5 favorite here at home. Over under 48. Tulane -218 money line. SMU +180. I'm going to start here because I also found out that SMU's quarterback is gone. So there is no chance in hell that they win this game. I've got Tulane big covering. I'll go the over. It's probably going to be Michael Pratt's last game. Willie Fritz, maybe his last game. Who knows? Maybe he gets hired by a bigger program here. And I'll take the Tulane money line. Pete.
Justin, I'm on the same thing. I was about to switch my pick and psych myself out. Didn't know SMU's quarterback is out. So I'm staying with Tulane, baby. Let's go.
Roll wave, Joe.
Oh, yeah. They're going to have the baby blue jerseys on? If they do, then they're unstoppable.
Yeah, honestly, Tulane's been my sleeper for a couple of weeks now, even though they're not really a sleeper team. I think they're just an overlooked team. They have only one loss to Ole Miss when they didn't have their quarterback. And now knowing that SMU doesn't have their quarterback, I'm with you. I'm with you too. Tulane big. I'm taking them with the 5.5. I'm taking the over, and Tulane money line. Easy pick.
Can we do the Angry Wave sweep with Russ?
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm with. We're all on the same page. But Willie Fritz, I think will be gone. Like his name's flying around right now. Big programs are looking at him, so we'll see. We'll see if this will be his last year.
I've heard keep an eye on his name with the Houston job.
Yeah, I've been hearing that too.
Yeah, Dana Holgerson out after he said, I've got a effing huge buyout, $15 million. Well, they fired him right after losing to us.
Obviously, he didn't see Jimbo Fisher's buyout.
Yep, and he forgets that Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Houston Rockets and Landry's, a multi-billionaire, is the biggest booster at University of Houston, who can easily handle that buyout. So, Dana, in case you weren't aware of who you were dealing with here. Well, speaking of Houston, the Big 12 championship, Oklahoma State versus Texas, the game in Pete's favorite stadium, Arlington, Texas, AT&T Stadium. Texas is a 14.5-point favorite here, over under 55.5. Texas minus 700, Oklahoma State plus 500. Going to start with Pete on this one.
I'm looking at my notes here. I was trying to break this thing down. And, it's tough because Gundy, I always think, so every time I'm like, oh, yeah, Gundy's going to have a great game here. Oklahoma State's going to be, making it close. He shits the bed. And then when I think, oh, Oklahoma State and Gundy are going to get rolled, he somehow wins. But that's not going to happen because the game is at Arlington. We're going Texas, hook 'em, cover, over, and money line, all Texas. And then they are going to be going to the Final Four.
Joe.
Yeah, I was kind of in a similar place with Pete. I was like, is this a game like the Red River where Texas just doesn't show up? I feel like, they do have a habit of doing that. But again, this is a quasi home game for Texas. I just think they would be dumb if they slept on Oklahoma State, even though they haven't played them this year. So I'm still going to take Texas. 14.5 is a lot of points, but I think ultimately they run them out of the stadium. I'm taking the over since it is the Big 12. Do they really play defense? And I'm taking Texas money line.
Russ.
Yeah, I think we're all in the same. 14.5 is a lot of points. Oklahoma State's a good team, but I think Texas has a bigger picture in mind that they want to get into that Final Four. So I'm with Joe, and we got the cover. Joe and Pete cover over money line. Hey, Pete, you take notes? Can we see those notes?
Yeah, it's on my little pad here. No big deal.
Those are from killer fucking notes. Excuse me.
Can I ask why you can't take a picture of that and send it to someone?
Yeah, because I have to actually bother to do it. That's the whole thing. Is I just didn't do it last week.
I'm sorry we bother you, Sabbatical Pete. I'm so sorry.
I was in Michigan. I was, I was out, so I couldn't do it. It's all right though.
He's in Michigan, but you don't have pen and paper in Michigan. They don't have that up there.
No, they don't.
It's Michigan.
Michiganders don't vibe like that, dude.
Russ, put me with so first I want to share, since 2010, Oklahoma State is 9-4 against Texas. Yes, I know, mind-blowing stat. Although this year is different. We saw Mike Gundy and co. get destroyed at home by South Alabama. We saw Mike Gundy and co. go on the road to UCF and get mopped 45-3. Then we saw them also at home beat Oklahoma, but not this year. It just feels like this is Sark's year. This is Texas's year. I'll take Texas all the way across the board. I'm going to go the over because it is the Big 12. It is Texas's final Big 12 game, by the way. Texas will cover, and I will go the money line. Got all that? Okay, next game here. We got the Big 10. A big-time matchup here, or should I say not. Michigan versus Iowa. The game is in Indianapolis, Lucas Oil Stadium. Michigan is a 23-point favorite here. The over-under, I am very shocked. It is only 35.5. Do they really believe in Iowa's defense that much? Michigan is a 2,800 money line favorite, and Iowa, is 1,300 plus 1,300. I'm going to start because really 35 and a half, do they really believe that Iowa's going to keep Michigan to that? Okay, fine. I'll go with this. I'll go Michigan 36, Iowa 0. Go ahead. Michigan covers it. Iowa, good story this year. Brian Ferentz out of a job. Michigan covers. I'll go the over with 36. Iowa, love you. I don't think you get a point in this game. Joe.
I completely agree. Let me 1 second. I'm looking up one thing real quick because I feel like this is a repeat of last year, and I think it was almost identical. 1 second. Let me look.
We just
While you do that, Pete, go ahead.
Speed bag this round this game.
Not so fast, my friend. Iowa's going to cover this. I don't know how. I think it's going to be 27-10 Michigan, and they're going to cover, and it's going to barely hit the over. So I'm taking Iowa to cover. I'm taking the over, and then I'm taking Michigan money line. I got 3 little different ways here, but I think Iowa is so jacked up to be in this game, and to be honest, they've been counted out all year. So, and they've made it here. So I'm not going to count them out now. So obviously Michigan's going to win, but I think it's going to be closer to 23 points. I don't know.
You're right, Pete. It's going to be, 24 points.
Okay.
It's Michigan. I was like, can we just speed bag this round? I'm like, wait, do we need me to talk about this game? Michigan's going to roll them. That over-under's mind-boggling, and we'll see them at wherever they end up.
So, Russ, you got Michigan all across?
I got a Michigan covering the over-under by themselves, and Michigan all over the board.
Joe, how we doing?
Yeah, so I was wrong. Michigan played Purdue last year, and then they played Iowa 2021, and the score of that game was 42-3. I knew there was a blowout of Iowa somewhere, and that's why Michigan across the board. I'm going to take the over. Michigan with the 23 points. Michigan money line. Iowa's defense is good. They'll stop them for a quarter, and then Michigan will just blow them out.
So I wasn't even willing to give them 3 points. Would you be willing to give them a field goal?
Yes, I'll give them a field goal.
That game was a snooze fest last year too.
Yeah. Big Ten will definitely – because the West is weak. The West is boring. Like maybe when the Pac-12 comes in and Washington – well, they won't do conferences anymore. So
they won't do divisions anymore.
Yeah. So – but the West is boring. I mean, you have Wisconsin. You were hoping Nebraska. And then you have Iowa. Like, good luck.
Mm-hmm. Moving along here, we have my favorite game here, the biggest showdown of the weekend, in my opinion, the Pac-12 championship in Las Vegas. Let's go, boys. Washington versus Oregon all over again. Deja vu. Oregon this time is a 9.5-point favorite, 67 over under. Oregon minus 345 and Washington plus 275. Russ, you want to take this first?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. This spread is just it's crazy that they think Washington, giving them 9.5 points. But I definitely think Oregon can win, but I went with Washington at the beginning of the year. I'm going to stick with my pick. So I got Washington covering. I think that over will be closer to like 60 to 62 points, and I got Washington with the money line.
Pete.
Yeah, I think everything you said is exactly right, Russ. I was shocked that Washington was a 9.5-point dog here. So I think this is easy money to have Washington cover. I do think Oregon's going to win it. I do think it's going to be over, though. I think it's probably going to be maybe like 37 to, or maybe like 42 to 35 or something like that. And I think Washington's going to cover by a touchdown. So, Oregon money line over, and then Washington to cover.
Joe?
The Heisman Bowl right there.
Yes, the Heisman Bowl. Who wins the Heisman Bowl, Joe?
Yeah, I think it's a massive disrespect to Washington to being a 9.5-point underdog. They're the undefeated team. I think everyone's thinking Oregon is. They've circled this game. I think both teams have basically said we're the two best. We'll see you back at the Pac-12 championship. So I'm definitely taking Washington plus 9.5. I think, again, that is absolutely wild. I'm going to take the under, though. I think it will be a scoring affair, but again, both defenses are legit. We saw it the first game. But ultimately, I'm going with who I think will win the Heisman. I think that's Bo Nix. So I'm going with Oregon money line, Washington cover, and then the under.
Let me just first say that I would love to see Oregon and Dan Lanning win this game and Bo Nix and go to the playoff, if that is the implication here. They've been a great story. They're a great all-around team. I just feel like, though, this is Washington's year. It's been the vibe all year that just feels like Michael Penix is the golden boy, the guy who's going to win it all. I'm so conflicted, but I'm going to go with Washington. I'll pull this as my upset of the week here, that Washington will upset Oregon with that 9.5 money line, that spread. And you guys make some good points here with the over-under. I could see it being like a 35-38 game, but I also could see it being a 27-24 game. I'm so conflicted, but I'll go with the under here because I feel like Oregon may have figured Washington out a little bit, and their defense has been very good down the stretch. And I'll take the Husky money line.
Joe, Justin, I want to throw this out. This is for me too. The last time we jumped on a Washington under, we all went under on Washington, Utah, and that hit the over in the first half. So
my concern with the under.
I'm sticking with my pick. I mean,
I'm sticking with the under. The only thing I thought was that if Oregon is legit and, like Justin said, figured out Washington a little bit, does Dan Lanning run up the score like he's known to do to basically, we'll put up a 40-point game when we've shut out basically Washington. I'm not saying they're going to shut them out, but it'll be like a 14-42 game, and it's just like, okay, well, Oregon had them done by the second quarter. But I'm taking the under. I think both defenses are legit. That wide receiver for Washington is a stud. It's going to be a back and forth game. Whoever has the ball, I know we said this for this game in Washington. Whoever has the ball at the end of the game will probably win.
Which did not happen. They missed a field goal that could have sent it to overtime, but this time it very well could. I do agree. Russ, you're almost convincing me to go with the over, but I feel like I got to stay with where I'm on.
I almost convinced myself too, but I went with the under, and I'm going to stick with the under, But I do remember that game. It was like 54, and they put up like 58 points in the first half.
So the only person that's taking the over is Pete. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
To me against the world, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Again.
The world. He's got to catch up. And for the final conference championship game we're focused on here, Georgia versus Alabama, the game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. UGA is a 6.5-point favorite here in their home state, 54.5 over-under. The UGA money line is minus 245 and Bama plus 200. Going to start with Joe.
I'm probably going to shock some people, but I'm taking Bama. I don't know why. I think it's tough to win 3 times in a row. I think Nick Saban and that team have figured something out. And again, as I said when we talked about the recap, they are gritty, which they have not been since I don't even remember, 2012, those eras with like Derrick Henry and Trent Richardson, where they just ran down your throats and played tough-nosed defense. I think Georgia, also hasn't really played anyone. I think, they're kind of like the Michigan of the SEC. So I think with that, I'm taking Alabama plus 6.5. I do think both teams will put up points, so I'm taking the over. And money line, I'm taking Bama. I think they shock the world and beat them. I could see it by a field goal. There's something about Bama that it has me riding that train. And roll Tide.
Pete, you want to counter?
Not so fast, my friend. Tommy Reese has never won a conference championship game, and it's not going to happen this week. Sorry, bro. Their defense might be good, but that guy's not. They're going to revert back to what they have been, and Georgia's going to get it rolling. Georgia cover over money line. Go Dogs, baby. Go Dogs.
To be fair, I feel like Tommy Reese has only played in one conference championship game ever, and that was during COVID. But yeah, I guess you do have a point.
Come on, you know.
Russ.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Joe. I think Bama will cover. I think it's going to be a great game. I do think Georgia's going to win and the over, but Carson Beck, I mean, you've said they've played nobody, and they beat Mizzou, who's ranked, looking really good. They beat Tennessee, Kentucky. So they've played some pretty good teams. Yeah, it didn't look great at the start of the year, but, they turned out. Carson Beck's looking great. You got Brock Bowers. Lad McConkey, that guy shows up in big games. So I think Georgia pulls this out and goes for the three-peat.
You can't forget DeJuan Edwards in the backfield. That guy's a beast.
Yeah, he's a stud too.
Yeah, so going down south here for Bama, Georgia, once again, the last time Georgia lost a game was in this very matchup in this stadium 2 years ago. They have not lost a game since. Now, they have a chance to bookend this, Alabama does. But, gosh, I just don't know. This could be the ultimate stick it to the man here where, no, this is my conference now. This is my sport now, Nick Saban, for Kirby Smart. I'm so conflicted here because Bama has shown they are very gritty, like Joe said. They're very resilient. But remember here, Carson Beck has also been pretty good in the last couple of weeks. I know Jalen Milroe has been heating up too, but look at Carson Beck. He may be a dark horse Heisman contender who goes to New York in a week. Look at his stats. 34, 95 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 picks on the year, 85.4 QBR. Maybe enough to get him to New York. Definitely not enough to win it in a year like this. I just feel like Georgia's at home. They're going to do it. They're going to do it. I'll take Georgia with the spread. I'll go the over here, and I'll take Georgia to win money line.
I will say, in all this transfer portal era we live in, Carson Beck is the true guy of showing stick it out, put in the work, don't jump ship, stick it out, and look what's going to happen.
Yeah, we saw even Stetson Bennett leave once or twice from Georgia.
Well, yeah, that was to go, to a junior college.
Mm-hmm. Right. But now for our predictions here. Upsets and covers. I already went Washington over Oregon. Joe?
Upsets, covers. Sorry. I'm doing Miami of Ohio over Toledo, 7.5. And then, yeah, that's it. Miami, Ohio over Toledo, 7.5.
It is a two-man race here. So, Russ, are you countering?
Oh, I'm going Miami, Ohio, Toledo. No, yeah. I told Justin I'm just Joe go first and I'll follow suit all his picks. No, I can't do that. I don't want to win that way. I was split down the middle. I had 2 picks. I'm going to go with New Mexico State over Liberty purely because they beat Auburn, who looked very good last week, and I picked them before, and they proved me right. So I'm going New Mexico State at 10. I think it's 10.5.
Okay, 10.5.
10.
10. All right. And Pete?
I'm taking App State over Troy. They're going to shock the world again, just like when they beat JMU, and I was the only one on that game. So I'm taking App State, baby. Let's go.
Well, hey, Pete, that was my other pick, too. That was the other one I was contemplating as well. So
nah, that's all good. You didn't make it, so,
Well, hey, I had 2. But I'm trying to give you credit, but, you want to be a douche, so.
Well, boys, this is, like I said, the last game ever, the Pac-12 on Friday. Over 100 years history of this conference and so many memories. So I want to know from you in today's question of the day, what was your favorite Pac-12 memory, starting with Russ?
Oh, man, there's too many. Pac-12 After Dark. I know this isn't a Pac-12, all those great Pac-12 games and bowl games, that USC team, one of the best college football games we ever saw, USC Texas, Mike Leach, all right, rest in peace, the run and shoot in Washington State. I mean, there's just too many to count. And we're just hitting all the ones that, we're younger guys, not the ones we came before us. So there's just so many to count.
I know you said it best. There's so many. Joe, can you narrow it down to maybe 1, 2, or 3?
Well, as Bill Walton would say, this is the Conference of Champions, and they always will win.
Baby.
My narrow down, though, is USC between 03 and 06. They were just the definition of dominant. 33 weeks straight at number 1. A game that will haunt me until I die, the Bush Push game, 05 at Notre Dame. Notre Dame had that game. Couple big plays by Heisman Trophy winner Matt Leinart. Then you have the Orange Bowl versus Oklahoma, where everyone's thinking, Adrian Peterson and who was their quarterback? Mike White.
No.
I think it was Jason Campbell.
Jason White.
Oh, Jason White.
Jason White. Thank you. Yeah, they're saying that that offense is going to just blow out SC, and SC blows out Oklahoma, and then to cap it off, then they have that epic game, as Russ said, against Texas USC at the Rose Bowl. Didn't end the way I thought it would, but Vince Young in Texas was legit. And then how can you forget in that stretch? 2 national championships, 3 Heisman Trophy winners, like dominant, just absolutely dominant.
Not to mention that USC Penn State Rose Bowl game was amazing too, with Saquon, Sam Darnold. I mean,
yeah, Trace McSorley, all those. Pete, Come on in.
Yeah, I just think, growing up as a kid in the Midwest, like watching Pac-12 football late at night, obviously, I always thought it was cool, man. I'm like, wow, these guys are out there in the mountains or out by the Pacific Ocean just slinging touchdowns. Like, I mean, you just look at the quarterbacks in the Pac-12 that have come out of there. Conference of Champions, more a conference of quarterbacks. I mean, Aikman, Moon, Elway. I mean, legendary guys. I think the Pac-12 has always been very good about innovating offense, West Coast offense, certain things like that. It's always been an air raid vibe, like just gunsling it. And I just love that type of football, to be honest with you. And I also think parity, like over the past 20 years, the Pac-12's had a lot more dominant runs between multiple teams than like the SEC has had, the ACC has had. So like, I think of that too. It's like you had USC, then you had Oregon. I mean, Stanford under Jim Hart. I mean, you've had a lot of runs and teams that were just amazing. So I always thought it was cool, man. I always liked the West Coast growing up. I wish I could have moved out here, and I did eventually. So that just to me, just a lot of fun vibes in December or November, watching Pac-12 schools play, still wearing short sleeves and stuff while I'm freezing my ass off in the Midwest. I was like, man, that seems kind of cool. So just a lot of memories as a kid, but especially the quarterbacks and the 303 Super Bowl rings that Pac-12 players have won.
Justin, before you go real quick, great West Coast offense. Like that is one of the epitomes of the Pac-12 that now is basically the staple of almost any pro style or spread offense. And then you could almost argue also, really any position at the Pac-12. I was thinking running backs because you had Maurice Jones-Drew, Lendale White, Reggie Bush. The list goes on.
McCaffrey.
McCaffrey, Toby Gerhart. So it's just so many.
Can we say that one anymore?
Who?
The Juice.
Yeah. Oh, the juice is loose. Yeah. OJ, Marcus Allen. Again, it goes on. It's a tragedy in a way. I'm gonna miss my boy Bill Walton talking, but Justin, your turn.
You guys highlighted so many of them. Some of these may be repeaters, but what really stood out to me most was Chip Kelly and Marcus Mariota's Oregon teams. Speed kills. The West Coast offense was a revelation to the game. And like Joe said, it's become a main staple in how the game is run today. All in the mind of Chip Kelly. And that's why I started liking Oregon back in the day, was because they were fun to watch. They had flashy uniforms. Green is my favorite color. except for USF. Don't get ideas. I still hate you. And then going forward, remember in 2014, Oregon, Utah, when Utah thought they had a touchdown at home, but they dropped the ball less than a yard in front of the end zone. Oregon ran it back for a touchdown. Same thing almost happened this year in Utah, Washington. Washington this time being the culprit this year. Oh, man, looking at you guys had mentioned the OU, USC, Orange Bowl. I remember personally Ashley Simpson being the halftime performer, and she got booed at the end of her performance. And that being like the big thing that I remember from that game. Because I'll admit it, growing up, I wasn't so following everything about college football. But that was the moment that I remember, oh, yeah, that's right. That's the game that Ashley Simpson got booed on. And her career was pretty much over after she flopped on SNL that one time where she lip synced. But that was just kind of a nail in the coffin. The Pac-12 being part of that. I remember, well, I don't remember this one, but I remember my uncle telling me about this. Every time they rerun this, the band is on the field. The band is on the field.
Yeah,
the Cal and Stanford rivalry on the farm. Gosh, that's a rivalry that's going to live on in the ACC, but it just won't feel the same, not in the Pac. We've also got, oh, gosh. A couple years ago, I remember we had a Friendsgiving. That's where I met you, Russ, at Pete's house. And I remember I had to leave early because I was going to see Five for Fighting all the way up in Agora Hills, Thousand Oaks area. Well, at the 100-year anniversary centennial of the Pac-12, at the Pac-12 championship game, they actually brought out Five for Fighting to sing a song 100 years. It's a very good song. You guys should listen to it if you go home. And if you're at home listening, go ahead. Once you're done with this podcast, start playing that song. It's just the proper way to remember this conference. And, of course, the granddaddy of them all, USC, Texas, 2005. A personal connection for me there was my dad flew out to California, big Longhorn fan, at the game, weaseled his way down into the end zone on the field in the last 2 minutes, was standing right where Vince Young ran in on 4th and 5, I believe it was, 4th and 15, whatever it was. And just as he gets in, every picture, you see him just the happiest guy in the world, throwing up his hook 'em horn sign, just screaming his lungs out. The greatest moment, arguably, in college football history, unless you're a USC fan. Although I feel like USC fans may sympathize, yes, that is one of the greatest moments. Unfortunately, they were not on the enjoyable end of it. And then also here, a little connection with this year. We got to remember Auburn, Oregon in 2010, 2011. Cam Newton versus Darren Thomas and LaMichael James. We had not just an incredible game where the last second they get a huge run where he didn't get the guy down, and that set up Auburn's game-winning field goal. But guess who was in the front row of that game with his family? It was Bo Nix, a young Bo Nix, with his father, who was an Auburn quarterback at the time. Remember also, Bo Nix's first ever game in college was against Oregon in Dallas. Last second, he beats Oregon. Now this time, Bo Nix is a Duck when he has a chance to maybe bring them their first ever title in school history. A lot of history with this conference, a lot of history with that game. The Pac-12, we love you so much. We're going to miss you. I'm personally sad that the greed of college football and the TV networks is tearing you apart. But we have a whole bunch of memories, 100+ years worth. So our eulogy to the Pac-12, thank you, and thank you for the memories. On that note, wow, very long-winded eulogy to the Pac-12, but just in time for our cheer of the week. And my cheer of the week goes out to JMU. You are going bowling officially. Yes, congratulations. It's bowl eligible because the NCAA protocols where there aren't enough 6-win teams to fill the bowl slate. That's when teams who may not have been bowl eligible in the first place get to go in. So congratulations to the Dukes. Congratulations to your coaches, your players, your fan base. They deserve this. Welcome to big time FBS football. Pete.
You know, I'm just going to give a shout out to family. I feel like I'm Dom Toretto here for family. Thanksgiving just came. Shout out to everyone in their family. Everyone who is having a great time, a rough time with your family, life, whatever it is. Just being around family and having a bunch of great food is amazing. So shout out to family and being around family on Thanksgiving. You watch football. So shout out to football as well, baby, because the last 4 or 5 days were great for family and great for football. 2 things that are great about America.
Russ, go for it.
Yeah, that's a good one, Pete. But, let's get this one in last. Bear down, baby. Big shout out to Jed Fish, Noah Fafita. I can't remember I don't know how to say his first name. McMillan, 11 receptions, 266 yards, 1 touchdown. Put up a 59 spot on that team in Tempe and sent them packing. Hot as heck to finish the year, and thank God A&M took Mike Elko and not Jet Fish away from the Bearcats.
Did not go from the fisher to the fish. Congratulations, Arizona. Joe.
There's you and your dad joke again, Justin. I thought you were outlawed from that.
I don't have kids. It's not a dad joke.
Yeah.
And Pete's gone, but I was going to just say he needed a Corona to be able to say that, or you never turn your back on family. But no, mine is just simply overall rivalry week. There were a lot of blowouts, but then there were also just a lot of great games to watch. I thought that Iowa-Nebraska game was entertaining for what it was. We already talked about the Michigan-Ohio State and the Iron Bowl, but Washington-Wazoo was exactly what I thought that was going to be, a real hard-nosed game. And then Florida State-Florida. I mean, again, the tale of the 2 backups. And, cheers to just having another great rivalry week, entertaining football. I can't believe the season's almost over. It's like, where's time gone? But to rivalry week. Let's go.
I just went to grab my Corona.
Good.
Speaking of Florida State, I'm checking the private chat here. Thank you guys for reminding me. We forgot to do the ACC title game.
Not so fast, my friend.
Let's just, yeah.
I think it's an easy pick.
Yeah. All right, let's just do it really quickly. Go for it, Russ.
I got Louisville all across the board and the under.
Okay, Joe.
I have the exact same thing. Louisville across the board and the under.
Same here. I thought you guys might go Florida State. I was like, I thought I was the big brain in the room.
Man, Jordan Travis, I love you, man. You're a great kid. There's a lot of great character people in this Florida State team, but unfortunately, without Travis, you just don't have enough juice to get to the playoff, to do anything in the playoff. So even if they win this game, I feel like they're going to look at this team and say, if they win it close, maybe this team is not even good enough to get in here, and they'll put a 1-loss Oregon if they win over them. Florida State, I hate to do this. I'm going to go Louisville across the board as well, and I'll go the under here. It's going to be an ugly game, but Louisville will come out on top. Jeff Brom, first year in the ACC, gets the ACC championship. Congrats to Louisville for getting there, by the way. Great job. I know last week y'all lost to Kentucky, which took you out of playoff contention, but maybe next year when there's a 12-team field. And on that note, guys, what a season. We've got Bowl Mania coming up next week, and I will be on my way to Australia. I'll be doing the show from the airport. And so after next week, I'll be doing the show from down under. So thank you, guys. Thank you all for joining us here at the Finstock Sports Network and Touchdown in Paradise in general. I'm Justin.
I'm Playoff Pete.
I'm Joe.
I'm Russ.
And we'll see you next week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and follow for more. Have a great, great weekend. Let's go Conference Championship Week.
So